ShambhalaCh19 the universal monarch. The challenge of warriorship is to step out of the cocoon, to step out into space, by being brave and at the same time gentle. In part 2 we discuss the possibility of discovering magic, or drala, and how that discovery can allow us to transform our existence into an expression of sacred world. Although, in some respects, all of these teachings are based on very simple and ordinary experiences, at the same time, you might feel somewhat overwhelmed by this perspective, as though you were surrounded by monumental wisdom. You still might have questions about how to go about actualizing the vision of warriorship. Is it simply your personal willpower and exertion which bring about the courage to follow the path of the Shambhala warriors? Or do you just imagine that you are seeing the great eastern sun and hope for the best that what you have seen is it? Neither of these will work. We have seen in the past that some people try to become warriors with an intense push. But the result is further confusion, and the person uncovers layer upon layer of cowardice and incompetence. If there is no sense of rejoicing in magical practice, you find yourself simply driving into the high wall of insanity. The way of the warrior, how to be a warrior, is not a matter of making amateurish attempts, hoping that one day you will be a professional. There is a difference between imitating and emulating. In emulating warriorship, the student of warriorship goes through stages of discipline training and constantly looks back and re-examines his own footprints or handiwork. Sometimes you find signs of development, and sometimes you find signs that you missed the point. Nevertheless, this is the only way to actualize the path of the warrior. The fruition of the warrior's path is the experience of primordial goodness, or the complete, unconditional nature of basic goodness. This experience is the same as the complete realization of egolessness, or the truth of non-reference point. The discovery of non-reference point, however, comes only from working with the reference points that exist in your life. By reference point here, we simply mean all of the conditions and situations that are part of your journey through life: washing your clothes, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, paying bills. Your week starts with Monday, and then you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You get up at 6 a.m. and then the morning passes and you have noon, afternoon, evening, and night. You know what time to get up, what time to take a shower, what time to go to work, what time to eat dinner, and what time to lie down and go to sleep. Even a simple act like drinking a cup of tea contains many reference points. You pour yourself a cup of tea. You pick up a spoonful of sugar and bring it towards your teacup. You dip the spoon into the cup and stir it around so that the sugar becomes thoroughly mixed with the tea. You put the spoon down. You pick up the cup by its handle and bring it towards your mouth. You drink a little bit of tea and then you put the cup down. All of those processes are simple and ordinary reference points that show you how to conduct your journey through life. Then you have reference points that are connected with how you express your emotions. You have love affairs, you have quarrels, and sometimes you get bored with life, so you read a newspaper or watch television. All of those emotional textures provide reference points in conducting your life. The principles of warriorship are concerned, first of all, with learning to appreciate those processes, those mundane reference points. But then, by relating with the ordinary conditions of your life, you might make a shocking discovery. While drinking your cup of tea, you might discover that you are drinking tea in a vacuum. In fact, you are not even drinking the tea. The hollowness of space is drinking tea. So while doing any little ordinary thing, that reference point might bring an experience of non-reference point. When you put on your pants or your skirt, you might find that you are dressing up space. When you put on your makeup, you might discover that you are putting cosmetics on space. You are beautifying space, pure nothingness. In the ordinary sense, we think of space as something vacant or dead. but in this case, space is a vast world that has capabilities of absorbing, acknowledging, and accommodating. You can put cosmetics on it, drink tea with it, eat cookies with it, polish your shoes in it. Something is there. But ironically, if you look into it, you can't find anything. If you try to put your finger on it, you find that you don't even have a finger to put. That is the primordial nature of basic goodness, and it is that nature which allows a human being to become a warrior, to become the warrior of all warriors. The warrior, fundamentally, is someone who is not afraid of space. The coward lives in constant terror of space. When the coward is alone in the forest and doesn't hear a sound, he thinks there is a ghost lurking somewhere. In the silence, he begins to bring up all kinds of monsters and demons in his mind. The coward is afraid of darkness because he can't see anything. He is afraid of silence because he can't hear anything. Cowardice is turning the unconditional into a situation of fear by inventing reference points or conditions of all kinds. But for the warrior, unconditionality does not have to be conditioned or limited. It does not have to be qualified as either positive or negative, but it can just be neutral as it is. The setting sun world is afraid of space, afraid of the truth of non-reference point. In that world, people are afraid to be vulnerable. They are afraid to expose their flesh, bone, and marrow to the world outside. They are afraid to transcend the conditions or reference points they have set up for themselves. In the setting sun world, people believe absolutely in their reference points. They think that if they open themselves, they will be exposing an open wound to germs and disease. A hungry vampire may be nearby and smell the blood and come to eat them up. The setting sun world teaches that you should guard your flesh and blood, that you should wear a suit of armor to protect yourself. But what are you really protecting yourself from? Space. If you succeed in encasing yourself completely, you may feel secure, but you will also feel terribly lonely. This is not the loneliness of the warrior, but the loneliness of the cow, the loneliness of being trapped in the cocoon, cut off from basic human affection. You don't know how to take off your suit of armor. You have no idea how to conduct yourself without the reference point of your own security. The challenge of warriorship is to step out of the cocoon, to step out into space, by being brave and at the same time gentle. You can expose your wounds and flesh, your sore points. Usually when you have wound, you put a bandage on until it heals. Then, you take off the bandage and expose the healed flesh to the world outside. In this case, you expose an open wound, open flesh, unconditionally. You can be completely raw and exposed with your husband or your wife, your banker, your landlord, anyone you meet. Out of that comes an extraordinary birth, the birth of the universal monarch. The Shambhala definition of a monarch is someone who is very raw and sensitive, willing to open his or her heart to others. That is how you become a king or queen, the ruler of your world. The way to rule the universe is to expose your heart, so that others can see your heart beating, see your red flesh, and see the blood pulsating through your veins and arteries. Ordinarily, we think of the king, in the negative sense, as someone who holds himself apart from others, hiding in his palace and creating a kingdom to shield himself from the world. Here we are speaking of opening yourself to other human beings in order to promote human welfare. The monarch's power in the Shambhala world comes from being very soft. It comes from opening your heart so that you share your heart with others. You have nothing to hide, no suit of armor. Your experience is naked and direct. It is even beyond naked, it is raw, uncooked. This is the fruition of warriorship, the complete primordial realization of basic goodness. At that level, there is absolutely no doubt about basic goodness, or, therefore, about yourself. When you expose your naked flesh to the universe, can you say, should I put a second skin on? Am I too naked? You can't. At that point, there is no room for second thoughts. You have nothing to lose and nothing to gain. You simply expose your heart completely.